I'm supposed to look there. Okay. So, guys, keep on talking to each other. Make it natural. Don't sit like this. Were you a farmer before you joined the FAO? How does it work?
Interesting. No.
Kat, who are you?
You're looking for lawyers. I'm a lawyer, but you should have asked, why are you not cooking yourself?
I do. I thought good point. That's a good
I love
point
the
for-
food here. I love the barbecue.
And I walked from here to China.
Hindsight is a beautiful thing.
You are really tapped up. Welcome to this series of Ask UN podcast. My name is Mohammed Yahya, head of the United Nations in Pakistan. We've asked you, Pakistanis across the country, to share your questions for you to understand more of what the UN does. And today, I'm glad to announce in this first series, we're joined by senior UN colleagues. On my right, Sam, who leads the United Nations Development Program, followed by Florence, who leads FAO, and then we have Philippa, who leads the United Nations Refugee Agency, UNHCR, and then we have my brother, the head of UNFPA, Luay. So they will be answering your questions today, and I'll be pushing them to get as many answers as possible for you so that you feel that your questions are answered. And hopefully, at the end of these interesting discussions, you get to know more of what the UN does on behalf of the people and the government of Pakistan. Thank you for joining us. First question. So many of you asked questions around the UN. How do I join the UN? And I thought the best way to ask these questions are colleagues who have worked in the UN for long, I don't know how many decades, some of you. I'm not going to say who has worked for decades, but some of you has worked for decades. But I think people will want to know how you've joined the UN. Maybe I start with Sam. Sam, how did you join the UN? What motivated you?
Thanks, Mo. So for me, I joined the UN as I was doing my PhD in conflict resolution, and an opportunity came up a little bit haphazardly. I sent an email that was supposed to be one person to a group chat, and somebody said, this is kind of an interesting profile for folks that want to work on peace and security in the UN system in the Arab States region. And so I found myself starting a consultancy in the UN in Yemen at that point. And that was my entry point, and I've loved it since then.
Great, good story. Florence leads our food and agriculture organization. Were you a farmer before you joined FAO? How does it work?
Interesting, Mo. But you know what? I used to go on the maize field of my uncle every summer. So, in fact, I think it had an impact on why I joined FAO. So, the fact that I worked on these farms make me look for a university which was doing agriculture. But I started my career in the private sector, in water, as an engineer, agriculture engineer. But then I would say what struck me to join the UN is the neutrality. The fact that I don't have any specific agenda, any specific objective to push, just trying to be neutral and to find the best advice for a country.
Great. So you don't have to be a farmer to join FAO. That's the moral of the story. Philippa, you are the head of UNHCR, interested in protecting the rights of refugees. Tell us your story on how your journey to UNHCR.
So I joined UNHCR almost by accident as well, actually. I had a legal background. I'd done a law degree. I was interested in human rights. I needed a job. I was looking at vacancies that offered that subject matter. I was living in Australia at the time, and they happened to be looking for lawyers to help with their refugee cases, and that's how I joined UNHCR.
Great.
I was attracted to it because of the fact that it's such an international organization and has so many people from different countries and different backgrounds, and that's really what motivated me to join.
Okay, you don't also have to be a refugee to join UNHCR. You can be a refugee.
You can be a refugee.
But you don't have to be. It can be whatever you want to be before you join. So you've heard the story from head of UNDP, PhD, university guy, now leading UNDP. I'm not going to call you a pipe engineer, but you're an engineer of some type. We had a lawyer. Now, Luay,
Well, in my case, I was hunted by the UN. At that
I hope it
time,
was not violent.
no,
It was-
no. At that time, I was the chief statistician in Palestine, and I have been invited for a conference on gender-based violence. I did a presentation. It happened that the executive director of UNFPA was attending, and she is Saudi, and she said, Loy, I want you to join us. I said, no, 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 I have a census I need to do. She said, no, you'll serve your country much better if you join us. I didn't listen to her advice. I went back to Palestine. I did the census. After that, we have the political conflict in Palestine where I couldn't tolerate. So I called her, said, I'm ready to join. And this is how I joined.
We're happy to have you join. How many applications did you fill before you got your job?
My very first job
With the UN?
with the UN,
Yeah,
maybe two.
None.
You didn't apply? How?
It's through network. So I went with my CV in FAO in Rome and knocked at doors because I had sent it and nobody wanted me. So, to engage with a person. And then I was lucky. There was a French guy. I'm French. He had done the same university as me. And he said, I'll try you for 3 months and we'll see. And I've been there for, I will not say how many years.
So for Pakistanis who are watching, don't follow her advice. Don't knock people's door in Rome. But in seriousness, I think everybody joins it differently. Philippa, how many applications did you?
Well, it was a long time ago, so I don't remember exactly how many. A few, but it was also a bit by chance as well, because I didn't knock on doors, but I did make phone calls to follow up on applications. And one of the phone calls was to the UNHCR office in Canberra. And I said, you're looking for lawyers? I'm a lawyer. And they said, yes, come for an interview tomorrow. And that's how I joined.
Luay, we know your story. You didn't apply. Somebody you were put. But just for Pakistani viewers, I got my job on a 51st application. So some of us applied tons before you even noticed, because the problem is really not that the system doesn't work. It's just that there's a lot of application, a lot of qualified people applying, and sometimes it takes long. So the moral of the story is different pathways of joining the UN, different motivations, and keep on trying, keep on working. And if you have the minimum criteria, I think, and you believe that you can contribute to our common humanity and our shared humanity, then the UN is for you. So I'm going to take you to another question. This comes from Madan Lal from Sindh, Tarpaka. Apologies for my pronunciation if I mispronounced it. Madan is a female or man? Is a female or is a male? Madan.
Men.
Is a male?
I think so.
We are for gender equality. It doesn't matter. So Madan Lal is asking, apart from what we do, which is a lot of important work in support of government and communities and civil society, what are the much more deeper barriers to women's equality in Pakistan? Because this country is very fascinating, because it's probably one of the first countries in the Islamic world to have a woman leader. We had a woman prime minister here for a very long time. So it's a country that has led in terms of the highest level of leadership, having women. But if you look at the index on the gender gap, it's still chronically low. So is there something else that can be done, or can advice that we can provide around gender equality? I don't know who wants to come in.
So for me, I believe economic empowerment would be a big game changer for, because in a household, when the woman start bringing money, contributing to bringing money, the power dynamics changes. And so she has a voice, at least at the, farmer community in which we work. It's very clear.
Pakistan in many instances is claimed to be a religious country. But I think it's not. It is conservative. There are guards for social norms. Grandmama is one of them. Therefore, I think it's a journey that the country has to go through with. Women economic empowerment is one of the triggers. Education is the most important in my opinion. And I think with the huge number of girls out of school and huge number of women who did not complete their metric level, they did not complete the basic rights level, although the Constitution assume that the minimum is the metric level. In fact, on the ground, it's not. Let me tell you very, very interesting story. If I'll take one more minute. One day I was in one of the provinces, I don't want to name it, in one of the communities. I was visiting and discussing with women and men issues related to family planning. And I started by questioning, okay, how many schools do you have in this community? They said we have 6. How many inhabitants are in this? They said 65,000. How many schools for girls? They said none. All schools are for boys. I said, then why you don't have a school? They said the common practice that we donate the land and the community, the government provide the building and the human resources, the teachers. I said, then why you did not donate? They said, because our community is becoming commercial and the land is becoming expensive. I think this is the issue. Until the community is convinced that investing in the education of girls is much more important than the amount of the land, the cost or the price that they can get for the land, unless it is changed, I don't feel that this country is going to move.
Can I just say, and I think you can only change that, as you said at the beginning, by getting men on board and having them understand this as well.
So now we're moving to questions that were not really asked, but I think it's important for Pakistani viewers to know more about you. You lead your organizations. You come from different backgrounds. We have a Palestinian, we have Egyptian, we have French, we have British, we have, in my case, I have several nationalities.
British as well?
Somali, Kenyan, also British, yes. But the question people want to know is, who are you? Like, what do you do outside your normal job? What makes you? What social hobbies or hobbies you have? I keep seeing Philippa. I keep seeing you walking around. I will not mention where, but I saw you walking around with your dog. The happiest I see you. You're happy most of the time, but I also see you very happy.
I'm always happy.
Exactly. When you're walking around with your dogs. I will not tell you where I run Sam into in the evenings, but he seems very happy in the evenings, happier than the daytime. I know you like to cook. Really? Yes, she's a very good cook.
You like beans, right?
You've never invited us.
Exactly. Now, maybe this is the start of a beautiful relationship where maybe she'll start inviting you to your food. You, I don't see, I see you walking.
And I walked from here to China since I arrived to Pakistan. I walked too much. And I finally
So just
managed.
for the viewers, you really did not walk from here to China, but you mean you walk a lot?
Yes, I walk a lot. And also I managed finally to teach my Pakistani maid to cook Palestinian food.
So what is Palestinian food?
We use vegetables, too much, little oil, not much rice.
But you should have asked, why are you not cooking yourself?
I do.
Good point.
This is how I taught
Good
him.
point. That's a good point for Florence.
Yeah,
Why
I'm
you
very
let
good
people
cook.
cook for you?
I'm a very good cook. I'm a very good cook, yes.
So what are the name of the dishes that you cook?
We have makluba, which is somehow like the pilau here. We have musakhan, which is bread and chicken with a lot of spices, and olive oil. We use too much olive oil because our country is full of olives.
So maybe you'll claim some of these dishes are Egyptian, or they're not?
Mulukhiyah, it's there.
Oh, absolutely. So I love the food here. I love the barbecue. Spices are a little bit too much in some places, but being a big barbecue eater, I think it's great to be here. I spend my evenings playing tennis.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Of course,
That's what you meant, obviously. But I also have a dog and grew up playing football. So honestly, really enjoy it here. There are a lot of my colleagues here that complain about the heat. Coming from Egypt, I don't complain about the heat. I actually am okay to spend time outside in the heat, but very much enjoying, this greenery that we see here in Islamabad, which for me was just a great surprise when I first landed.
Yeah. Florence, what do you do apart from not inviting your colleagues to dinner?
Me, I've discovered the Pakistani art.
Tell
Yes.
us more.
So I've been running around in many galleries. It's incredible. It's rich. It's diverse. You look at these young Pakistanis who are coming out from the NCA, the NCA, National College of Art from Lahore, who is very known, well known. So I've been buying art. Been spending my money here on
So
art.
can I ask you, have you been also to some of the Afghan refugee artists? They also produce art, and there are some really talented. We'll have to arrange.
I think I haven't.
We'll have to arrange.
I should do that.
So why have you not invited them for dinner after all these years? You want to tell the viewers and why?
That I haven't invited everybody. Have you already said? So why?
You don't
Because
you don't have to answer that.
I can answer. I like my private life as well.
Philippa, what do you do apart from
Well,
walking
you've
your
already
dog?
told everybody what I
No,
do. So
So I'm encouraging you to say other things apart from walking your cute dog.
I like to swim, and that is a challenge actually in Pakistan. Although now I've discovered a couple of swimming pools in Islamabad.
Swimming. You like to cook, but now we
Yes.
know that you don't allow you teach people how to cook,
Yes.
and but you can cook
No,
yourself.
I still keep complaining, but that's fine.
So we'll invite ourselves to your
Absolutely.
house for
Absolutely.
Luay's cooking, and if we can convince Florence to remove her roadblocks on coming to her place, we shall also go there. Okay, now I'll take you to a more direct question from Zub. Zub, how do I pronounce it? Balochistan.
Job.
Job. So
I think so.
it's Job. Job.
I mean, that's how I say
Okay.
it.
So Job, which tells you the agencies have more presence in Balochistan, are much more educated in pronouncing names. So Job, Balochistan, where is it, by the way? Do we know? Is it far from Quetta?
It's in the north of Quetta. It's where, there is the Chilgoza forest, not very, very far from Job. It's a beautiful area.
The question relates to refugees. Will the UN acknowledge Pakistan's sacrifice and provide financial and security cooperation? Essentially, I think the question is around, is Pakistan getting the right level of acknowledgement around the incredible hospitality it has provided to refugees? And I think you pointed that out. But there's a sense, it seems to me, from this question from Amanullah, not enough has been had. What is your perspective on that?
I mean, I think people always think that not enough is being provided, and certainly recognizing what Pakistan has done, we need to continue that support. But I do want to come to an aspect of to this question that perhaps isn't asked, but maybe underlies it, which is that there is this perception that refugees in many countries, not just in Pakistan, but refugees are a burden. Refugees do not have to be a burden on a country. Refugees come with many skills, a lot of knowledge, and they can contribute positively. They can, if they're given the right to work, for example, they have to pay taxes, they run businesses, they can employ local people. These are all positive contributions of refugees, and it's really important that I think we as the UN recognize that and look at it from that angle rather than looking at it from an assistance and a burden point of view.
Fair point. Thank you. Anybody else wants to come on the refugee issue? Yeah.
The first one is that in many specialized agencies like UNFPA, most of the funding that we are getting is for the Afghan refugees. And all the funds are channeled through the existing structures of the government that serves Afghans and the Pakistanis. Therefore, from this angle, I think many Pakistanis rely on the services that is funded for Afghan refugees. And this is one of the important issues that I keep saying through the engagement with the senior people in the government. The second is a human thing. I am personally a refugee. My family was displaced from one place to another in Palestine. And I think none of us as humans have a guarantee that is not going to be a refugee, him or herself, through the cycle of life. Therefore, I think it is important that we look at the refugees from this angle. These people moved their places not voluntarily. They didn't leave their places to come and burden this community. These were pushed either by wars or by conflict, internal conflict. So they have already left all their belongings and came to a new difficult environment. So I think the way, if we look at the refugees from this angle, things will become more human.
And I think that's a really important point to mention here, because Pakistan was born out of these same kind of population displacements at the time of partition. So that's something also to
Yeah, but the fact that you are saying it can happen to any of us, I think that's powerful.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think the next natural step to discussing displacement, generally speaking, these days has to be climate displacement and climate justice. A lot of the people, as you mentioned, are moving because of war or conflict, but many people these days are actually moving because of either natural disasters or climate change. I spoke about people in the north. The challenge they have in many cases is that one single event takes away their village, washes away houses. This happened in 2022 in Sindh and places in Baluchistan because of different kinds of flooding. Now all of this is happening at the same time. So I think this point about humanity and sensitivity to others is really quite important, because there may come a time where some form of displacement actually affects you. You know, people's ties to the land, people's ties to community, etc., are really quite important. And that's why in many cases to think about what differentiates people is not the way that we do business in the UN system. In many cases, we talk about area-based programming. If you happen to be in an area, you require a service, healthcare, education, security, policing, something else, there is an obligation to support one way or another. I think governments federally and provincially are doing that admirably. We understand that there's a burden. Sometimes it's a cost. Sometimes there's some kind of tension. But easing that burden, I think, is really quite important.
This takes me to transitions very well to the questions around climate change. And you just touched on climate displacement. And the question leads to the issue of climate justice. Pakistan contributes very little to the global emission that has caused climate change, and is paying the biggest impact in terms of financial loss, human loss, and stunting future development. So I'll start with you, Florence. How do you answer that?
Yeah. I mean,
And what are we doing? Just so
what we are doing on
so
that?
the question is, how UN is taking to ensure the climate justice is served. So what are we doing to make sure that Pakistan's climate, from a Pakistani perspective, the climate justice issue is solved? And how is the UN supporting Pakistan in tackling climate change?
So let me look at the first part first. I mean, there are two ways on the climate justice that we are all hearing around. One is, the countries which are polluting should pay for the countries which are not polluting it, and which is what you were saying about the 1%. But, and that's one thing which is, a global issue. So let's look at the second part of the coin, which is inequalities. So let me give you an example. I'm me, living in Pakistan or living, I don't know, in Sindh, and a farmer or your housekeeper living next to me, okay? There is a heat wave. Me, I'm in my house, air conditioning. What does it change? Poor farmer, he has to sow or he has to harvest. It affects his productivity. It's more difficult for him. So let's look. There is a flood. My house withstand the flood. his house, mud house, disappears. So the climate justice is about this inequality between poor people who do not have the capacity to adapt. So that's why in us, as the UN, regarding climate change adaptation, because they have to adapt, how you support the poor people, how do we support rural areas, because the poverty is more important in rural areas, how do we support the farmers to adapt to climate change so that these inequality things do not stand,
That's a very good example. Also, it also relates to countries. Those who pollute, the rich countries, and those who don't pollute suffer the burden of the impact. And we see it only last week. We had this SWAT flooding on the thing.
But let me go back to an important point that I have heard many times when people and when you engage with people, they said, "What did UN do for us on this?" And let me say that very, very clearly, the United Nations is not a player. The United Nations is the playground where member states play. So it is important that we know that all intergovernmental treaties are coming as an outcome of discussion between member states. And it is very important, and of course it is the role of the UN to help the government and member states to prepare their homework, but at the end, it is the homework of member states to lead on this.
It's an interesting question, because if you look at, and that's the beauty of the UN as well, is this agreement, this global agreement. Look at the Paris Agreement, where, all countries came together and decided to reduce pollution and protect the environment. And Pakistan is part of it. And that's a part that sometimes we forget from the UN, is that capability of bringing all the countries together, deciding on how to tackle the common issues.
Yes.
And I think
But also who pay more.
Yeah,
This is also one of the issues. Member states from the south have to do more in order to ensure that these treaties are fair for them.
So I think if you look at the event of the 2022 flood, for example, what happened between August and January 2023, I think is really quite important as a process. There is the event, there's a post-disaster needs assessment that the UN with the EU, Asian Development Bank, and the World Bank actually come together to support the government with. Happens very, very quickly, which becomes the basis of what's the need. It became the basis for the Recovery and Resilience and Reconstruction Plan. And then there's also a supporting humanitarian plan. But I think one of the most critical areas where the UN actually supported the government is the Geneva Pledging Conference in January of that year. We go to the Geneva Pledging Conference, everybody shows up. A lot of pledges, a good bit of that financial support actually materializes. Much of it is actually implemented. There's an international partner support group that continues to date to be able to support the government. However, to come back
He
to
looks very skeptical.
who leads,
He looks very skeptical.
Who
Let him
leads?
finish.
who leads? The government leads. And that, I think, is important. Everything that we support with is additional to that. It's the entities, the government that actually support that effort, and that is always the case, hopefully moving forward.
Why you were skeptical once?
Yeah, because in Geneva conference, most of the money were already allocated money. So there was not much new money for the floods. This is sad.
The other thing is what can be done, and I think the issue whether Pakistan is receiving the necessary support from those who are polluted is a question. I think all of us have consensus that that's not happening, and every COP is always a commitment of billions of dollars, but don't materialize. And unfortunately, we're in a place where cooperation and international support system is not as strong as it was or could be, and hopefully this is a temporary blip. There's a question from Irshad Khan on the Sustainable Development Goals. As you know, the SDGs are the umbrella document for our support to the people and the government of Pakistan. They are the ones that we have about 4.5 years to go before the SDGs come to an end in 2030. So the question from Irshad is, what is the current status? How is Pakistan doing on the SDGs? Sam?
The current status on SDGs, I think, is not good. Pakistan is on par with everybody else because the level of achievement can be bigger. There is ambition, there's measurement, and then there's the financing part. Everybody recognizes that we can do more and accelerate what we are doing. The financing discussion is actually happening as we speak now in Spain with the Financing for Development 4th conference. The last conference was 10 years ago in Ethiopia, and there are a lot of very important things on the table now which relate to debt, trade, development financing, international, national, etc., coinciding, interestingly enough, with the budget discussion that is happening here. All this to say that what needs to be done, if you just look at the financing part, is really quite critical now. The amount of global private wealth is 422 trillion.
So we can afford it if we want to.
If we wanted to afford it, we can spend 1% and be able to get to the SDGs if financing were the issue. I think to close, what is important, I think, for Pakistan is Pakistan since 2016 has adopted the SDGs as their national development plan. So there's no shortage of commitment here. I think for the UN system and others, it is important to actually move the agenda forward, accelerated spend, and be able to measure that kind of achievement moving forward.
I hope the next version of the development agenda, whether it's called SDG or something else, it should be more focused on people rather than sectors, because people matters. And this is the only KPI that we should measure our progress towards.
I have 2 more quick questions. It's going to be fire. What do you call it? What do you call it? Fire, rapid fire. Rapid fire questions. I'm not going to ask you for your DNA. Don't worry. The way you look at me, think that.
I'm preparing myself here.
So, for quick question from Masab Bhutto, 17 years old. I don't know where she's writing from, but her question is, how can the youth contribute to the work of the UN? Rapid fire action. Who wants to go? If I'm a youth, I'm a young Pakistani, and I want to contribute to the UN, what can I do?
We have
By the
too
way,
many
to contribute to
opportunities.
the UN so that the UN helps Pakistan is always important.
Yes.
We're here to help the country, but anyway.
Youth is the hope of the country. It's the future, and there are youth networks that they can come through, and also there are these forums that many UN agencies are supporting, youth centers, where they can start from there to learn about the UN, contribute, get internship, got some trainings, and this is the beginning of the story.
I think you should speak up when you see injustice, when you see something wrong. Speak up.
Exactly, that's what I wanted to say. The accountability, they can be a big trigger for requesting for accountability because they are very well organized. They can be very well organized. You know, today with social medias, etc., you can.
And I like that because the issue here is not, don't think your role is only working for the UN, which is important and you should look, is how we advance our common shared values of equality, of justice, of climate.
Exactly.
But it would be good if, the question is, does the UN facilitate this? And I know all of you have youth programs.
I think one of the things that I like the most about the engagements that we have with youth here is the work on youth entrepreneurs. A lot of the innovation, creativity, energy, drive, etc., actually comes from youth here. So it's not surprising to me that some of the programming that we have actually focuses on skills, one area, and then access to some finance to be able to finance your ideas. Some of the partners that we work with, in many cases, they compete for some small awards that we do or participate in the kind of programming that we have. There are folks in Karachi working on electric motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
There are folks that are recycling single-use plastic and turning that into bricks and selling it to big companies. These are youth entrepreneurs in companies that they started, and they're actually profitable. And that's why I think when I think of young people here, voice, speaking up, engaging, civic engagement, I think is really quite important to be complemented by what they want to do for economic and social issues, not only to help themselves. So we talk about skills as if it's an individual thing. It is important. But youth starting businesses, I think, will be the next big thing here.
Yeah.
You were saying something before we interrupted you on pushing.
Did you interrupt me? No.
There was Florence who interrupted.
No, I did interrupt because I think it's also very difficult. We need to be honest. I mean, entrepreneurship, it takes money sometimes. It's
So,
you cannot.
Philippa, you want to finish on the youth thing, or you're done?
I don't think I'm done.
You're done. Okay, so I have to ask you final questions before we close. And the final really question is, and this relates to advice. If you think of yourself, your young self, Luay at 17,
Yes.
I'm sure me and you we had something in common when we were 17. We both had hair, I'm sure. But you still have hair. But advise yourself as young self. What will you have advised yourself now, if knowing what you know?
I stand for my issues, and I will not be afraid of saying what I should say. And I try to do what I really believe should be done.
So
This is my
you've
advice to
done.
myself.
That's what you'll advise yourself.
Yeah.
So you think through that process, there are things that you didn't do, you should have done.
Yes, of course. There are some instances, some points where I have did something because I was afraid of consequences, and I still regretting this.
Philippa at 17, what would you have advised yourself for knowing what you know now? Advise your, what is it? They say advise your 17 self. Over to
Well,
you.
probably similar to Luay, right? I think we all think back and think, oh, if I'd known then what I know now, hindsight is a beautiful thing.
So you'll use the same.
So I'm going to change your question because otherwise I'm going to say the same. So I think what is also interesting is to say to the young Pakistanis, what would we advise? What advice would I give to them?
Or it could be something that you have been advised through your growth, either professional or others, that you found it very important that you want to share.
Yeah. So So the first thing for me is study. Yeah, and it comes back to the education. Study. Try to, because it will give choice. I mean, hopefully it will give choice in your life. And the second one is no regret. Don't regret.
There's a French song.
Yes.
How does it start?
Je ne regrette rien.
Je ne regrette rien.
You want to lead us on that song?
No, thank you. I can't sing. I know the words, but I can't sing.
No, so maybe this relates to one of the earlier questions about how do I get into the UN system. I think all of us look at a lot of CVs for different positions. You know what catches my eye? What catches my eye these days is when people have some kind of history of volunteerism and civic engagement. When I was 17, I wanted to be a professional football player. Didn't do that. But I also was doing quite a lot of volunteering, especially with poor communities and disabled communities, etc., all around the country. And I really love it when I look at a CV and I find young people who have actually done that when they were really, really young. Because I guarantee you, once you start volunteering and becoming civically engaged, doing civic engagement, you will find yourself in a track to be able to work for either a civil society organization, a UN organization, and to work on some of these sustainable development goals that we often talk about that are now becoming part of Pakistan's DNA. And that, I think, is important. And if you think about what you can volunteer in, it's education, it's health, it's climate change, and in many cases, it's actually governance-related issues. And I think that's important. So my advice to my younger self is maybe do more of this. And I would definitely tell younger people here, do more of that. It will stand out in the future.
You have a cake?
Because I'm just thinking about this question, and I think one of the major changes since when we were young and youth today is social media and the internet. And of course, it's brought a huge wealth of knowledge and possibilities, but it also has a downside. And I would say be careful with what you believe that you read on social media. Do research, educate yourself, look into it, question things before you make up your mind based on what you might read on somebody's social media account.
While we all discussing this with your younger self, I imagined how you would look when you were 17. I know many of you look the same. But quick question, Sam. one song that makes you happy. Think about it. Florence,
Non, je ne regrette rien.
so do you want to tell people who sang that song?
Edith Piaf. I Will Survive.
You Will Survive. Who sang that? I Will
I don't think it was
Survive.
Gloria Gaynor.
Gaynor. Okay, I'll survive. So, Philippa, I Will Survive. Edith Piaf. What the song is called?
No
No
regret.
Regrets.
I don't regret anything.
Those are two really important songs.
غدا ألقاك. I see you tomorrow.
Who sang it?
كلثوم. One of the
A famous Egyptian.
Semi Egyptian, exactly. Yes. What is the song called?
غدا ألقاك.
So,
I
what?
see you tomorrow.
Don't worry, be happy, I think makes me happy.
And how about you?
Question I should have thought. I should have thought of a song I like. But I actually like the Frank Sinatra one. I Did It My Way. It's very nice. So that brings us to the end of this first Ask UN podcast. I'm supposed to look there. Okay. This brings us to the end of the first of a series of Ask the UN podcasts. Many of you know the UN is celebrating 80 years this October. And I've said this in many other forums. The first line of the governing foundation or the governing book of the UN, which is called the UN Charter, starts with "We the people." And this series is really responding to that commitment is in the Charter of prioritizing the people. And here you have very senior UN colleagues. And the idea here was really for them to answer your questions that you have sent to us and learn more of what the UN does here in Pakistan on your behalf and under the leadership of your government. Thank you very much for joining this. And inshallah, we'll see you soon. And give us feedback. Were they a bit too stiff? You want them to be more relaxed? You want them to say more? Please be participative. Send us the questions. And even their dress code. We're all wearing black. I don't know why we're wearing black. Two decided
You've
not to
told
wear
us to wear black.
I know, but somebody told me we should all wear black. Maybe it's good for the background. But please send us your feedback. And thank you very much for spending your 40 minutes listening to the work of the UN and answering your questions. Done?